Great. This is going to take hours. 3, 2. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Fully Blooming. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Fully Blooming. Today I'm here with my mum, who I've mentioned a lot in my past episodes. And my mum is, well, her name is Parkes, or Katarzyna Parkes, and she is a therapist and energy worker. So it definitely runs in the family. Thank you for coming on my podcast and being my first guest.
Inviting me. It's a real honor. Thank you very much.
You also have a podcast.
I also have a podcast, and I think Ola will put all the information below. So I have a podcast. I also record meditations in Polish and English, and I work a lot with the divine feminine and masculine and a lot of other things. So I think there will be information.
Lots of information. And I wanted to bring you on the podcast because I think this generation, or my generation, we definitely stay at home a little bit longer than a lot of other generations, probably. I mean, I can't remember when you left home, but it was very much you turn 18 or you go to university and then you leave home. Whereas for our generation, because of lots of different reasons, we do stay at home a little bit longer. And I think the dynamics of our relationship has definitely changed since I've been living at home I was at home during university because I moved university, and then a few years kind of here and there in between figuring things out. And that's definitely affected our relationship. And yeah, that's why I wanted to bring you on, because I think it's a topic that's not really discussed at the moment, but it's something that is definitely prevalent for a lot of people.
Yes, there's a lot of things, and I just need to tell you, whoever is listening, I'm Polish, so I was brought up a bit different. Ola was brought up in England, so again, things that are happening in England are a bit different, because when we studied for 5 years, I actually stayed at home because you were not studying in a different city, you just stayed in your city. So I'm used to being at home and children being at home. Obviously in England, it's different because people leave home very early at 18. And for me, it was a bit early, so maybe that's why you came back. I've created the situation. But obviously, then, I left at 25 because I got married. I moved to England, so things changed. So I really flew the nest when I was 25. And yes, till about 23, 25, you sort of stay at home. But your generation is called the boomerang generation. So you come back after being away, then you come back because obviously of the economic situation, everything that's going on, it's very difficult to buy a flat or to just live on your own or with someone else. But it brings a lot of issues, obviously, because I think the kids that are coming back, they're not kids anymore, they're young people. They're used to certain arrangements, but obviously we treat you as grown-ups now, and parents expect certain things. So maybe washing the dishes or cleaning or partaking in the everyday life. So things need to change. And when you came back, you started looking into different options, what you want to do, and you started the healing journey as well, which was very interesting because obviously my healing journey and my work with energy has been going for much longer. So I'm pleased I could help you, but also it's interesting to watch.
I can imagine. And I think for me personally, it was incredibly hard, having lived abroad, having studied abroad, lived with friends, or just done a lot of different things, and then having to come back home was a real struggle, because obviously I had kind of flown the nest and I'd found this independence and enjoyed it, and then it was incredibly hard to kind of come back. And I'm going to say, you say you treat us like adults. But there's obviously going to be an element of you're always going to be our parents. And so it's kind of finding that new balance of it's not a child adult relationship anymore, it's more adult relationship. And then I know I've definitely had the thoughts, also because I'm the only child, that, you know, when the time comes, you know, it is just me at the end of the day, if when you and dad fly the nest. And that was definitely playing on my mind. So then that brought up a lot of different emotions. And you spoke about my healing journey, which obviously is continuing and ever evolving and growing. But for me, that was a big thing to work through, that feeling of, I want to spend time with you because I don't know how long you're going to be around, and that guilt, and I even mentioned it yesterday, versus also wanting to leave. And I think the longer that I stayed, the harder it was for me to leave, because then obviously every year you were getting older, and you're not old, but but it was definitely it became a very hard situation. I found it very, very hard to know, and I know a few of my friends are currently going through that at the moment. It's this, I don't know, you have an argument or a disagreement or whatever, and then for me it was instantly this guilt of oh my gosh, like I'm going to regret that, and I'm going to. So it's definitely been a hard, for me, quite a difficult dynamic.
Okay, because it's very interesting. You're probably touching on the subject of a single child, just the only child. Because I have a sister, so obviously it was different. The dynamic was different at home. I wasn't the only child, so it's difficult for me to say, oh, I thought this or I thought that. But thank you for mentioning it, the guilt. And maybe it's a bit too early to take on the parent role. Yes, probably you will have to take on the parent role, hopefully as late as possible. And we're still able, we're still okay. And I think with the children, our children, it's because you have to start living your life. We expect you to start, yes, to fly the nest and to grow, to work, to set up your family, whatever you want to do. And we are still young. So usually your friends' parents will be still young. We are not in our 80s or 90s when the problems may start. So maybe it's a message to all the young people who are listening. We, at least maybe my generation, we don't expect you to take care of us yet.
Yeah.
You know, maybe start saving for later, but not yet. We really want you to live your life. We really want you, because it's your time. You have to do it now.
Yeah, and I think it was almost like I felt like I jumped a section, because it was almost when I was living outside of the family home or I was living abroad, it was definitely when we saw each other, I definitely felt that it was more adult. But then when I came back home, I felt like I jumped that section and I went straight into the parent role of, I need to take responsibility for you two. So I would get very frustrated because I was sending you recipes, because I'm like, why are you eating that? You're older, you need to look after yourself. Why are you still?
I really start to feel very old here.
But it was a very big and obviously it all came from a place of, I want you guys around as long as possible. But at the same time, the last, I don't know, year or more, I've kind of just been like, you know what, you've got your own life. You're doing great anyway. And just to almost let you go.
Yes, and you know, as we let go as parents, we let go. You know, most of us, obviously, there are different parents and different cases of parenting. But yes, we had to let go. You really made us let go about when you were 18, because you wanted to be independent. You wanted to do your own things, and we had to let go. And yeah.
And I also moved country. I didn't just go to university, I moved country to do a ski season. So that was I didn't.
It was, very long time ago, because I'm very old now.
You make me sound old now.
But it's all good. It's obviously parenting and And having children and being a child is difficult. And, I can speak now, I was a child to my parents, but now I'm a parent, and it's the biggest lesson, the biggest teaching time in your life, because our children teach us a lot. And we either learn or not. If we don't learn, it's very painful. So it's better to learn.
And obviously, you've only had me, a daughter. So do you think there definitely is, but a mother-daughter dynamic?
Oh, definitely. And as you know, our families, mainly women. We run, my mother's line is women. There's a lot of very strong women in the family. So probably genetics, but also unconsciously, I've given you the traits of being independent, of doing your own things, because looking at my grandmother, who had, I think, 5 sisters and a brother, and all the sisters had daughters, and then my mom had 2 daughters. My sister and I have a daughter, so each. So not the same one. And a lot of women. And that's why probably it was easier for me to bring up a girl, but maybe because my father was an army officer, a colonel. So he gave us a lot of masculine traits as well. So probably I've given you both. I'm not sure. But yes, we were brought up in a sense to be princesses, but on the other hand, I know how to set up an IKEA shelf or how to repair a lamp. My dad would love me to repair a tank, but I didn't go that far.
And do you think I've never thought about that. But do you think that if you'd had a son, things would have been very, very different, or you would have?
I think it would be a different lesson because, yes, I grew up in a very masculine environment, obviously in a sort of military area, but also I studied economics. I was in a science class, so I was always surrounded by men, and I was comfortable. I like male environment because it's very logical, straight, and I had to learn how to be in the feminine. But on the other hand, I would have no idea how to bring up a boy. And obviously I would do it, and it would happen, but it would be a completely different lesson.
And this might be too deep, but would you do anything differently? Specifically bringing me up, not your whole life.
Bringing a girl up, and obviously I'm talking from the position of a mother. You would have to talk to your father to find out his take on it. But especially in my family, yes, we bring up girls so you can succeed in life, so you can be successful, so you can be maybe not a survivor, but if anything goes wrong, you fall down, but you get up again. This is the most important thing. With a boy, probably it would be the same, but maybe, and also probably I was the bad policeman. Your father was the softy, and I was the one who would say, no, you can't do it, or you can't go. But I thought maybe at 14 or 15, going to Greece with some girls just on your own, maybe it wasn't a good idea, but it was my opinion.
Oh, yep.
With a boy, maybe I would think the same, but yeah, I'm sure there would be more sport, and I'm not very sporty, so it would be very difficult.
Yeah, I've definitely adapted or taken in more sport since I left home. Yeah, so talking about the masculine feminine, you obviously have a program about it, and which again I didn't know about, because for context, my mum has been doing the energy and healing work for
over 15 years now, I think.
And so when you were starting it, I remember you showing us different things in the kitchen, and me and Tata, that's my dad, we couldn't stop giggling because it was just so alien. And now obviously I found it on kind of my own path, and then we've kind of come together and merged and things, but and I'm so grateful that I get to talk to someone about it, because it is a little bit sometimes like, what is going on, or like, this has just happened, please can you help me, or
yeah, and I can only tell you what I know, what I've experienced, and obviously your journey is shorter, but I feel, if we're talking about generational difference, for my generation, it's really odd, and it's really something you didn't do, because we went to work, we studied, we did things the right way. Let's call it the right way. And the normal way. Yes, maybe it's not the right way, but the normal way, the usual way. And then when I went and did something else, I questioned obviously myself a lot, because, okay, I have 2 MAs, my parents had PhDs, what am I doing, and what's going on? But your generation, thanks to all the media, thanks to internet, which we didn't have, you are so much more open, and you are so much exposed to all these things. So if you're having moon circles that you were running and probably you will run again, or if you posting your meditations, for young people it's normal and it's brilliant, because something has changed, the whole energy has changed, and it's bringing another take. It doesn't mean everybody has got to do it, but sometimes you want to try something different, you want to see something different. And okay, let's come to a moon circle, or let's do a meditation. And so many people talking about trauma now, which we were told, just get on with it. I can't imagine going to my parents and saying, oh, I've got this problem or that. I just couldn't do it, because they would say, just deal with it. And now I'm really grateful that you are coming to me and asking, and hopefully many young people now have this opportunity as well. I hope they do.
Yeah, it's definitely change. I mean, even in the last, I would say 5 years, I've seen a real change, and especially post the pandemic and the lockdown and everything, and it's all linked to mental health, and it all just seems that it's now so much more accepted. And yet there is still an element of, for me anyway, I feel that it's a little bit woo-woo, and it's almost that it's not fully, I think a lot of what is shared on social media isn't fully grounded into our reality. And I know that we've spoken about this, and you can't just float off into whatever and live there, because at the end of the day, you need to live on this earth. You are here on this earth right now to live. And I think for me, that's where I've been finding that balance constantly, but where of course I want to go to ecstatic dances, and but at the same time I love going to restaurants and festivals and skiing and socializing and enjoying just kind of very grounded life. But I think, like we spoke about it 2 or 3 nights ago, that you were talking about the new age and how there's a lot of pressure now to almost be perfect. Good or perfect. Yeah,
it's probably not new. New age was 20 years ago. Now it's old age or middle age. But and I'm really grateful. It's only taken you a year or so to realize you need to be grounded. It took me much longer, because I loved flying away and being in the clouds. But I think the old saying goes that before enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. Because everything that we're doing, energy work, anything, needs to be really grounded. We are here in the 3D. And that's why we're here, to experience everything. Yes, life may not be easy, and it happens, life happens. But we've come here to experience it. And probably the souls out there, or the angels, or whoever you believe in, or whatever you believe in, they envy us, because we can touch, we can love, we can experience with all our senses, we can smell. So I think the sensual, all the senses that we have, that really help us and ground us. But obviously our body, we have a body, which in the 5th dimension, or the dimensions, doesn't exist. It's all energy, but our energy is so dense that we have our bodies. But we've talked about the New Age, and it's about the spiritual bypassing, meaning that, oh, you're having problems, it's your fault because you created it. Yes, but we souls here, we are learning, and yes, we make mistakes, and we carry our traumas, our things in DNA from generations, or if you believe in past lives, whatever. So give us some space. That's why people have so many problems, I think, with spirituality and New Age, because, oh, I'm doing something wrong, I'm not good enough, or he's more spiritual than I am. When I was learning about energy, there was so much comparing. Oh, he's a better healer than I am, or I'm better, I'm a better channeler. You are what you are. You will get better with experience, but another thing is just to finish this subject of is that we always have to be happy, and we always have to be smiling. And no, sometimes you want to be sad, or sometimes you just need to be sad, and not beating yourself up.
And I think,
sorry,
I think there's also something interesting that I touched on in my last podcast, is that at the same time, there is this pressure to be, for social media, especially, to be authentic and to be vulnerable. And for me, that really grates me, because we don't know who's watching on social media. We don't know who's, but it's almost that if you want to be validated, or if you want to be seen as someone worth watching or worth listening, you've got to be vulnerable. You've got to bare your whole soul. And I don't fully agree with that, because I think you get to choose who you want to be vulnerable with and want to share with. And maybe that's another thing that I've kind of picked up, that, oh, and of course, social media there's a lot of fake things, there's a lot of filters and illusions and everything. But for me, I'm going through a weird stage of, well, what do I actually want to share, and what is this going to, and I think it's, where does it come from? Is this going to be helpful to someone, or is this coming from a place of, I feel that I have to, because then I'm more authentic, then I'm more real. But I think there's so many complexities to this now. Oh, but then if I cry, I should share that, because I'm showing I'm not happy all the time. Whereas, and I've also felt that I am happy a lot of the time at the moment, and I've almost felt guilty for sharing that. And it's this ongoing, not battle, but kind of figuring out. And I think social media still is a relatively new space. So it is and it's really about tuning into, how do I want to turn up? Not what everyone else is saying, not what everyone else thinks. How do I want to use this platform and container to share what I feel wants to be shared?
I'm not an expert on social media, and it's your generation, or even the next generation that's coming, you know so much more. And it brings up, yes, I stopped believing everything I see on the media, especially all the happy clappy things, because nobody knows what's going on behind the scenes. And probably most people don't believe all the happy stories, constant happy stories. So yes, maybe if you're showing yourself vulnerable sometimes, but I think the most important thing is where it's coming from. Do I want to show off because, look at me, I've got a new hairstyle, or I've got my nails done? Or is it because maybe what I'm saying may help someone? And it's, so are you coming from the ego, or are you coming from the service? You know, I want to help someone, I want to serve someone and do it for them. But I definitely don't know about social media. And sometimes, if we're talking about energy, sometimes you just feel the energy. Sometimes I just can't open any social media, because I just can't go there. And the next generations, if you get more and more tuned into energy, you will know what's going on. And especially with the artificial intelligence, we won't know, really. Soon we won't know what's news, what's not news, and what's going on. But I think it's quite a scary thing. So I think
Maybe that's a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to quickly touch on this, what we also spoke about, this, that you've got to be good. you've got it, because I spoke to you last week and it was almost, and I said, is this good? And you said, well, what is good? There is no good and bad. And I think I almost, in that scenario, I definitely fell into that trap of, oh my gosh, I didn't do this, I didn't say this in the right way, I've been told that this is the way to do it and I didn't do that. And there was a lot of guilt and shame associated for me with that, because it was almost, I've done something wrong. And like you said, it's almost this, there is only one way to be the most spiritual, or the most, not even the most spiritual, but the most
perfect,
good, or the most aligned, or the most
goodest,
open, or, and I think
there isn't a one way, because there are multitudes, unlimited ways. And also, what's the good in your opinion may not be good in my opinion. We're talking about perfectionism probably here. It's got to be perfect, but what's perfect for me is not perfect for someone else, because we all have the filters. And yes, we can be peeling off the layers, but still we have our personality. We were brought up in a certain way. So I may think that only wearing pink with green dots is perfect. But for someone, it may be white with yellow stripes. So because of all our filters, everything that we think, there's really no perfectionism. Okay, the society and the culture has created some ideas of perfection, but everything's changing. And now the cultures have mixed, everything's mixing. It's very difficult. What's perfect is when you feel that it's good enough, that it's perfect, but it's only your feeling. Because someone may say, wow, it was more than perfect. For someone else, it would be, well, I could have done better, something. So it's all our own judgments, in my opinion, obviously.
So what would you say to someone who is just starting to maybe discover healing and kind of starting to peel off the layers? And because there is so much information out there now, you can look up potentially any trauma that you have, and there will be some kind of way of unpicking it or analyzing it or whatever. And it's almost that there is this right way to address it, or there is a right way to now act once you've addressed that. So what would you say to someone who is
Oh, it's a tricky question. I didn't expect this one. I would say go in gently. Don't dive into deep water, because it may do more harm than good. Not that obviously you sink or swim, but get some crystals, listen to Ola's podcasts and come to her sessions and talk to people, and you will find out that, okay, this person, yeah, I resonate with this person. And this one, I don't really feel it. And don't be scared to say, well, actually, this person doesn't work for me. Don't treat each person who's giving meditations, doing sessions as your guru, because you are your own guru. So don't go for everything that's available. Really use your discernment.
And I think for me, that's where intuition has been so useful, because I obviously was doing sessions with you, I was doing sessions with a colleague of yours, and still do, but there is so much out there. There is the breath work, there is the movement, there is the trauma release, there is so much.
Try everything if you can do it, brilliant. But then, okay, I've tried it, didn't work. Don't feel guilty, don't feel bad. It works for you, great. It may not work for someone else. We are all different.
Yeah.
Cliche, but it's true.
So I would add to that try everything. And then also what you just said, but don't feel guilty that didn't really work. Or if it really didn't feel, like for me, breath work, I do it probably once every 6 months, because for me, that is perfect. And it will come to me when it comes to me. But I think at the start, there's definitely that, oh my gosh, everything's so, and I could just release everything. And then I'm just going to fly high and everything. And you almost want to do it all so quickly at the start, because you suddenly unlock something. And actually, and maybe you have to go through that phase of that kind of excitement at the beginning, and then you kind of calm down a little bit and be like, actually, I also need to live.
Yeah.
And I can't, and I've only just fully kind of appreciated and feel like I've started to embody that of it's the same as, oh, I'll only, I don't know, put on a bikini when I have a six pack, or I will only do this when this. And I definitely was harboring myself by, oh, but I need to do a little bit more healing on this. Oh, I've got, oh no, and then I'll do that. And I think I don't know if that's been your experience.
Yes, it's when you only, but when I started doing my meditation, it just came. I started channeling the meditation 3 years ago, I think. And I said, okay, I'm good enough or not good enough, I will do it. And I did it. But also about this jumping into, if you decide to jump deep, make sure you have someone to hold you, because it brings a lot of stuff. It's energy work, it's working with emotions, and suddenly these things will start emerging. You will go down, you will go up. Have someone who will listen to you, who will hold the space. It could be a therapist, it could be a parent, a friend, but someone who's got experience and can hold the space for you. This is very, very important. To do this work on your own, it's difficult. Obviously, if someone wants to do it, they can do it, but it helps if you have someone to hold the space.
And I think for me, it's actually sped things up in a way that I don't have to almost sit with or deal, or because then my mind almost comes into it and will start to process and analyze it. And it's more, I've just noticed it's like, oh, okay, this has come up. I'd really love to deal with this with someone, so I will book a session or something. And I know that's me as well. That's very much like, okay, cool, right, all interested in that, and I want to delve deep. But yeah, I think someone holding the space and just having that safe space, and it also is very lonely at times. You can feel that you're going crazy, or lots of different things. So I think for me, it was finding someone almost neutral, that I could just be my complete self in that moment, without kind of thinking, oh, what are they going to think, or what they're going to say to someone, or would be.
So probably a therapist is a good person, because obviously they don't talk to anybody about what you're talking about, and they have the experience, and yes, they can be there for you when things are opening and unraveling. And no, you're not going mad, you're just coming back to yourself, which sometimes feels like going mad,
Which can be a little bit scary.
But we don't want to scare you. Look at us. We're doing great.
I mean, it took us about 10 minutes to start this episode because we couldn't stop laughing, so that was good. Any final words?
No, thank you again for having me. And good luck to all the parents and all the kids or young people. It's adults. A journey to the young adults. Yes, sorry.
Am I a young adult anymore?
Middle-aged adults?
Oh, I don't know.
Middle young adults?
Late 20s, near 30s.
Yeah, still a young adult.
Thank you for coming on my podcast.
Thank you very much, and I will be back.
Thank you so much for watching another episode of Fully Blooming. If you're feeling inspired and motivated, please share with anyone you think may benefit from this video, and comment below if you have any ideas, suggestions, or comments about future episodes that you'd like to know about. Thank you so much for your support, and see you at the next episode.